So I was trying to get volunteers to do it. I like the idea. I like the idea of the sign in the green, and it will be new, and it will look like we made some changes to the community. But I don't want to spend a lot of money on it either. So I don't think that the sign would be that expensive. Do we have a quote on what it would cost to get one created?
No.
Okay. Okay.
I love this. I really like the sign design and everything. I like to see on there, like when it's just a little blurb, forms, whatever year,
Oh,
something
established in
established,
1960.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean that maybe you put it in the corner or something, established, so to let people know we've been around for a while. It's not just some, fly by night thing.
But one thing I like with the signs we have is we can hang on the bottom of it, we can hang or whatever, put up or whatever. We can put up no open fires. I think that's important to have.
Okay, that's a good, that's a good
And the
point,
other
too.
one, if we anticipate a water shut off, we could put something up there. Water shut off date, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, so people can see.
Yeah, because everybody driving in and out.
So they're
is gonna see
driving in,
those,
they
and
can
then
see
that would, something else at the bottom of the sign would tend to draw people. They would notice it.
So anything new should be designed with that in mind, that we might want to hang
Well,
something
what we
on the
had
bottom.
before was Don Just down here.
Mhm.
We had the signs and he just took a couple of, I think he used a
Bolts,
screw gun and
yeah.
a couple of screws
Oh,
and just stuck it on the bottom
Oh,
with
okay.
a couple of
Yeah,
screws in.
yeah.
And then when it's fall, he just took them off. But I think that's a good way, that's a good opportunity to communicate.
mhm.
And
I grant, Lynn, I agree with you. I think that's a
we
great
should
idea.
make sure when we do that we have that option. I like
I like the idea of the sign, and I really like the idea of the hooks hanging different things down, because we could always change some of the messages on there depending on the season of the year or the needs. But I'm a little concerned about taking action on something when we don't have a quote in front of us. And I'm wondering, Don, if you could get us a quote for the exact item that you want us to take action on, and bring it back at the August meeting so we know what we're voting on.
Well, I think there's still the second component of the actual building it, right?
Ah, yeah,
So-
that's true.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if we can,
I was
in the
thinking it
newsletter,
anyway.
yeah, if in the newsletter, we can incorporate something and say, we're looking for volunteers that might be willing to build I don't know what you would call it.
A welcome sign for Christopher.
Well, we have to sign that more of the,
The frame.
like a frame or a lattice or something, a decorative, simple lattice.
Mhm.
Anybody with woodworking skills that would be willing to take it on.
Yeah.
and we need more.
May I please add something here? There was a discussion about actually putting up a kiosk for being able to post the agendas in several locations. So when you guys are bidding to make those frames with a slight roof over it, the kiosk, and we'll talk about that later. I'm sure Kathy will probably bring it up at some point. Maybe you could get somebody to bid those together and get a little more of a break that way.
Well, I think we're trying to get it so that this is done all through volunteer work, for one thing. And
Well,
then
we may be able to do that as well. I thought it was Dawn, was it you, or somebody thought they
Right.
knew somebody might be able to handle that. I
Oh,
forget.
that was me.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
so,
But that's okay. I love these signs. I think they look great, and I like the idea of established in on it, and then the hang down ones. I don't know how easy, unless this is done in plexiglass of some sort. I'm not sure how easy this is for us to do, but I don't know what they make these signs out of.
I think they're powder coated metal, if I remember correctly. And Lynn, you were saying there should be 4, not 2?
Well, you need Christian Valley Road
Right.
here, you need one on Virginia.
Okay.
You need one on Mary where it comes in from Meadow Vista,
Right.
and you need one on Florence.
Okay.
That's true. So you do need 4 instead of 2.
Okay.
You need Kathy to come down. I might be able to switch that
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know where she is?
upstairs.
so,
Do you want me to go up and ask?
I'll holler at her.
Um,
Hey, let me see. It's
I
kind
can
of-
go measure what we currently have
okay,
and then talk to Lynn and find out who makes powder coated metal signs.
okay, I think that
And just get a
I think that the
price.
company that does the signs for the streets might
Yeah,
be able to
that's
pull
what I
this
was
up,
thinking,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get just some more information on what it costs to actually make the sign. I think if we can update the newsletter to include volunteers for woodworking to help the
Okay.
district.
We
build
don't
something.
have room in the newsletter to
Okay.
go out this time.
Okay, that's fine. This is not a priority.
If you can click on
But,
source.
Yeah, I agree.
We can put it on the website though.
Yeah,
What's
that's the other thing I think we should add to the sign somewhere at the bottom is www.kristenvalley.org.
Yep.
That's a great idea. I like that.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
What's the dimension of this particular sign?
I'm gonna go out and measure that, Diane, I'm not sure.
I'm envisioning it something like 3 feet wide by
Right.
2 feet tall.
I
Is
think it's
what,
big. I think we
might be
need
I
to
think that's what it is. If I
Like four?
recall, yeah.
do
I haven't measured it,
Yeah.
but I drive by it every day.
yeah, I don't think it's quite 4 feet. It might be 3.
No, it's not 4 feet. It's
Yeah.
definitely not that big.
The only reason I'm actually asking you is that I know Placer County has some really weird ordinances of its own about sign size, the size of signs. So somebody needs to check with the county to make sure you're in compliance. I ran into that when I had my business, so I'm just saying.
I think our current sign is compliant, and we'll look into it. And the company that does the signs will be able to advise
regular
us as
sign
well.
company.
Not necessarily, because the sign person, I was going with the exact same size as every other business in the center. And all of a sudden Placer County wanted to make a big deal out of it and make it a different size than the rest of what was on the building. And I had to take a bunch of photos and it was just a mess. It was just like they were going to reject it right away. So I'm just saying, you don't know what you might come up against if somebody drove by and
We'll
turned
make
it
sure
in.
we're compliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're not going to take any action on item number 1. We'll bring it back to the next board meeting with the cost for a sign that is compliant.
Thank you.
Don, did you talk to Interstate Sales
No, I haven't.
about
talked
new
to her.
signs?
No.
Because since they did the ones that we have now, they have incorporated in their building, they do their own signs now.
Mhm.
And they're, normally they just, whatever the computer would print out letters, but it wouldn't do any art. Now, I'm not sure now that they're doing their own, whether they can do that or not. It might be worth a phone call.
Yeah, that's where I think we were going to try and go.
Have we already sent her a thank you email or a thank you letter or
Oh,
note?
absolutely.
Okay,
When-
we've already done that.
Yeah,
Okay,
the evening that she said
good,
that.
okay, good.
So moving on to action item number 2, outdoor bulletin board installation.
So,
What's the thought on where you're gonna put that?
well, one, there's a few different places that we potentially could.
Can we talk about the whys first? Because I'm not sure that I agree that that's a good use of money. So maybe for Dan's benefit too, kind of how the conversation came up and why
Yeah,
it might be
this is the first time
thoughtful.
I've seen outdoor signs.
Okay. There's a requirement for posting agendas.
Okay.
And the requirement is that it needs to be in 3 different places. And right now, I've only got 2. And it's I'll be critical on myself. It is a kind of a lame 2. I mean, the first one's on the internet, and that's what most people are looking at. The other one that I have been posting for 20 years was at the CCC, and then just in the last many months, because they're under construction, I no longer could use their bulletin board for it. So I got a couple of, and you can take one, but this is, hopefully you don't take one. And anyway, so I got a couple of them, and I put the agendas in plastic sheets so that you know, people could take it out and look on the back and, you know, and then put it back in. Anyway, it would be more efficient to have some sort of an outdoor bulletin enclosure for signs or for the agendas, and say still post it at the CCC if they'll let us post it, you know, at the entrance.
Sorry,
No.
878.
8050. And then another idea was to, I mean, we could put one at the plant. We own the land there. And now I'm trying to think of the other ideas to.
It has to be ADA accessible.
Well,
Location.
should
Don,
be.
the other part was actually, you know, where the lockbox mailboxes, some property owners may be willing to do that, including my neighbor, considering that everybody posts stuff on her trees. So.
So John, are we
So-
talking about like a bulletin board that has a glass
Yes.
cover on
plastic.
it for the lock or whatever? Yeah. If
Yeah.
we were meeting at the CCC camp and that was pretty much firm where we meet, then I think that'd be a really good idea to have somebody post. But since we're kind of in limbo there, where else would we put one that would be worth the money?
So there's I just want to be clear, there's a requirement to post it in 3 different places. So we've been out of compliance.
And we are out of compliance. One posting now has to be on the website, which we do, but then there are supposed to be 2 other postings that are ADA compliant so that people can get to them and see them. And if we can get permission again with the CCC, that's one, but we need one other spot. And so then the thought was, if we can get a case that, you know, you have the glass enclosure for, then we can also post notices. So when it comes time to form a committee or to take a vote on something, then we can post those notices there as well, so that people know that there are other places they can go see besides the website.
So we could potentially, after the construction is done at the CCC, we likely could potentially to continue to use whatever that they have established. I'm sure they're going to have something.
Yes.
So
Yeah, that would be one spot.
So I think in the interim, your short-term solution will probably work for the construction. So then we're really talking about one additional place,
Yes.
right? And where would that be that makes sense, that is ADA compliant?
Rolando, we had actually considered maybe putting one of those kiosks, or, you know, with a slight cover over it, on the Christian Valley Road side of Westridge Circle as you go into the plant. So somebody could just pull off the road, see it, read it, do whatever, grab whatever materials, and then head on back in.
Okay,
Well, that's one possibility because we already own that.
right. No, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
The only
Possibly
other
not right now
thing
with all the construction.
that I
exactly.
that I was thinking about was, do people want to drive all the way to the plant? You know, most of them, like Don said, most of them are going to do the internet. So I would think we would need one more location that would be fairly visible. In case CCC is good, you know, we put one at the plant that's 2, then, and the internet with 3, which would suffice for what we need. The only other option you had would be put something close by where the Welcome to Christian Valley signs are.
See, I don't think,
Well, Diane had the
Yeah.
idea of putting it at there's a huge cluster of mailboxes where Alan and Gail meet. And so, you know, where people get their mail, it's not a bad call to stick something in that
but it needs
area,
to, yeah.
if it's allowed,
Yeah.
you know.
But I,
Who would you have to go through and get permission to use that? Where the cluster of mailboxes are? I mean, is that part of our easement or what?
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. I mean, do the roads there.
Okay.
But whether it's an easement for that, I don't know, but.
But you know, maybe a year from now, or 18 months from now, when we're done up there, and where the road goes up, we could have a sign that introduces or explains that these water tanks are Christian Valley CSD, and the project, so many, you know, so many gallons or whatever, kind of informative, and then the bottom part of it could be a bulletin board for later information. And then in the web, or in the on the web, we could have a reference to that, but we'd still need another one somewhere eventually, maybe down by the CCC camp or somewhere.
Yeah, so
I like that idea.
my sense is that in the short term, we continue with the CCC posting the rudimentary one. And then for now, in order to be compliant, I think we should do something similar in front of the water plant right now, something very basic, but that's clear. You know, and I mean, I don't care if it's a post with, like what you're saying, a lift up tag, so that we're compliant. I think we wait to see what the CCC is gonna do and what options they're gonna be able to offer. And because I don't think we should be investing money when the CCC might have a great tool for us, right? And then once this construction is done, we need to maybe evaluate a permanent structure with what he's saying too, because I think that would be good. I think this is a little early to make any kind of decision. Is
I
kind of what I'm
agree,
thinking.
and you know, and frankly, most of my concern is the cost. They're expensive. I certainly wouldn't want to spend, you know, $1,232 plus tax and shipping to do
Installation.
in installation on something that nice at the plant when we've got the kind of traffic, you know, equipment traffic going in and out
Oh,
of
yeah,
there.
it's smushed.
And, you know, they take the turn to Sharp and over it goes.
Yeah.
So we could
Years
come up
ago,
with,
there used to be a sign up there, and I think it's still laying on the bank up there. You remember what Frank Weigel
He,
was the name of the
when
guy,
I
I
came
guess.
on, he wasn't,
Anyway, the guy that was one of the instruments that started this whole water thing years and years ago, I think his name was Frank Weigel, something like that. And there was a sign and it said, Christian Valley CSD Frank Weigel or Weigel water treatment plant. And it was right there by the reservoir. And something similar to that, but more like you're thinking, more permanent.
Yeah.
And then on the bottom, maybe we could have a bulletin board where you raise the glass.
yeah, I think once the project is done,
Yeah.
I think right now, as tacky as it may
Yeah.
look,
Two-
we can
two
put a 4x4 in some quickcrete and, you know, a piece of plywood,
Yeah.
spray paint it, and we can use a staple gun to put the notices that are required by law to post, you know, to inform people of what we're doing.
Thing is, not many
There's-
people would come up here to look at it.
No, but at least if
Yeah.
the concern is
On the
to be
web.
compliant.
yeah, there's already a fairly new post and sign at the construction site. And we could just put the plywood on that.
Yeah.
And it would draw your attention and then have it just.
I mean,
underneath.
these are lovely enclosed bulletin boards, and they're very much like we used to have at the city. And you know, if you put them in the right place, people will read them if they're walking through the area, like a bank of mailboxes or something. But I just think we need to be careful about money.
Another option I just thought of, you know, these kids have these senior projects that they have to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and some of them actually do a really good job. I know one kid at my daughter's dance studio built cabinets for the nonprofits. All the dance girls could have their gear and all that stuff. So I don't know if we can talk to maybe someone in the schools that may need.
Boy Scouts. Ask Boy Scouts to do it
Yeah,
too. Lexic Gas
Yeah.
project.
but I think there's probably some member of the community, either a Boy Scout or a student, who needs.
Or either Eagle Scout project
Right.
or what have you.
Yeah, so I will maybe put that on the agenda, on the newsletter as well.
Yeah.
But I think, just to keep the agenda moving, I I think we don't want to take any action here other than we're going to post a makeshift post here and continue, and then we'll have to bring this back once the CCC and our construction is done. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Okay, so item number 3.
Okay. 3, the suggestion came up to have a moderator for the computer here, so that we can have a meeting and not miss the hand raising and whatnot. So, and that just kind of gets me thinking, are there any hands raised? But anyway, so is that something that the board would be interested in having? Say, volunteer community member to come at the meeting and
Yep.
and
I think that it's something that we can do. I think, you know, this is a kind of a new environment. We've kind of been learning as we go, and I've sort of been trying to do it by myself. I think we just need to get better organized. I think, you know, one of the other board members needs to just watch the computer, sit near the computer, and if they see the flag, let the rest of the team know, so that Don can focus on taking notes and giving his report out. And so that, you know, I can focus on facilitating, and one of the board members can just be paying attention. I really don't think we need a moderator. That would be my
I agree
my
with
opinion.
Rolando.
Unless
I'm
we
more than
assign
happy
one of the
to
board
take-
members to be a moderator during each meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we're kind of in this weird environment right now. I think this will change as we finally get settled into a true meeting spot and all that. But
I have my hand up, but again, nobody saw it. So what I'm going to say about moderator is that it's going to, because we're going to be stuck in this Zoom meeting and we may be getting in email questions and so on and so forth, and it's going to expand. It's going to be distracting for a board member to be reading those and not being participating in the conversation. That's why I'm saying a moderator. When I watch other water districts conduct their board meetings, they have moderators. So I yield.
yeah. Well, I already said my opinion.
I'd like to try the voluntary thing first, and if that doesn't work, then maybe we look at
Yeah.
and see if we can bring somebody in that would volunteer to do that.
And actually, you know, we've been talking a lot about doing things in a more structured, formal way, be it bylaws or ordinances or conflict of interest code. And one of the things that's outlined in our agenda each month is that comments from the audience are entertained, if you will, at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of each action item. So we do have an opportunity for people to speak and address the board at the appropriate time. So I think it should be fairly easy for myself or Kathy or any board member to continue to participate in our board discussions, and at the end of each action item, ask for questions from the community.
Yeah, before the item is voted on.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
It may be that item number 4 would fix item number 3.
Well, not necessarily, because a lapel mic doesn't serve the hand raising, which Diane just did, and I missed it.
Yeah.
So they virtually can raise their hand, you know, and so Diane, do you mind raising your hand again on the? Yes, thank you. So can you see? See, there's a little blue, well, blue background with a little white hand. And anyway, thank you, Diane. And that's one of the ways that people
Asked to join the conversation. Yeah.
Well, or to make a comment. that's one way that we know that there are comments out there to be made on whatever agenda item we happen to be talking about.
So anyway,
Okay. Well, so as far as the moderator, I don't know, do we need to take action? Anybody? need to-
Your comments, I think we can do it internally, but we need to be a little more disciplined on,
Okay.
you know.
I'm going to suggest that one of the board members be designated for each meeting as the moderator, so they're monitoring that.
Mhm.
And then we'll see how that goes. I do like the idea of the moderator. Once we move into our different format for meetings, hopefully soon, we're still probably going to need to do the Zoom meetings so that everybody can attend. And so we'll still have that need for a moderator, I think. But it should definitely be a volunteer position. This is not a paid position. This is just somebody that volunteers to do that.
so gotta move on.
Yeah, I think let's move on if nobody has
Okay.
any.
The lapel microphones, there's a whole host of lapel microphones. The problem that's coming up is that you can get 2 microphones to go in, but getting more than that, I haven't gotten a definitive answer on that. Because in a boardroom situation, they have like a sound system,
Yeah.
and so the microphones all get wired in, and as far as this, we're taking a little 3.5 millimeter or whatever the microphone cable, and splicing it 5 different ways, or 6 or 7, and that just is posing a problem. So I couldn't get a good number on that just because I didn't have a way of doing it.
I'm going to jump in again, kind of with
Good.
my first thoughts. First of all, I don't feel like we should be spending any more money. We made the investment on this tool. I think it's a good tool. Unfortunately, someone's family room isn't conducive to a conference area. If we had an actual conference room with the table and everybody was able to sit around it, I think it would be much more conducive and it would work better. So I think that it's an investment to kind of deal with the situation right now where we're kind of trying to stay away from each other and things like that. I'm actually going to jump into a suggestion I was going to maybe bring up later, and then I'm thinking that a better solution potentially we should all consider, and it might fix some of all these other issues, is that it should be a Zoom meeting for everybody. I appreciate Lynn's generosity and his willingness to open his home to us, but we're also at this point now sort of taking advantage of his kindness. So to me, it seems like it should be that everybody should just join via Zoom. Maybe we get a little bit more organized about that, and individuals would make an investment on the mic for their computer if they felt they needed one, but it would be less likely that we would need it, because I think I hear Diane very clearly, I hear Kathy very clearly. I don't think we would need to make an investment if we move to a Zoom, entirely Zoom meeting. I don't know how folks felt. I think originally that was the thought, but then there was only just me and Don. I think we're going to meet in person at that, but then we had some technical problems and then everybody just kind of met at Don's house, but that wasn't our intention. I think we should consider maybe going back to everybody being remote. And I don't know how people feel about that, but that's my thought. And I think it would solve both issues. And I think that would force the board member to be looking at the computer and monitoring the hands up as well, who's ever in charge of that piece.
I agree, particularly with things that are going on right now. I think it's safe for everyone.
I think it's safe.
Me?
Sorry, Don was trying to do something with the iPad. Go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, I just said I agree. Most meetings that I attend, and I attend a lot of board meetings lately, they're all Zoom and everybody's on Zoom. And they seem to work just fine. So and given the state of what's going on, sadly, with us going backwards in time instead of forwards in time until the COVID piece gets resolved, I think it's safer for everyone if we do have everybody on Zoom. I do want to point out, though, that a consideration that the board should probably think about maybe later on down the line is once we get back into an open room again, there's every possibility that we will need a couple of mics. And that's just so that the audience can hear us. And that's just good board practice to have that, but nothing that we need to invest in right now if we're on Zoom.
Right, and maybe at that, like I said, it may be if we buy a second one of these because if the table is large or something, but anyways, we should reconsider at that point. Did you say Diane has her hand up?
Yes. I saw a hand raised.
Yeah, Diane?
Right. In terms, I don't know what kind of mic scenario that you have going on that you're trying to share amongst the room, but there are so many different mic configurations. And if Don wants to talk to my son, Troy, he's pretty versed in that and he could help him through it. Also, we even have what you call a Zoom recorder that is a multi-directional. So I don't know what that is that you're working with, but there should be a Bluetooth scenario for that. So when you guys are in the meeting, but I agree, I mean, for the most part, people can be in a Zoom setting at this juncture. I don't know how that's going to work for, hopefully everybody's going to be versed on, including Lynn, on like if he needs to share screens and stuff, there might be some training there, but I'm just saying my son could probably help Don with that. Sorting through those pieces of equipment because it may not be as costly as maybe you're thinking. I yield.
Does everybody agree that maybe right now it's not a good investment and that we maybe should be looking at a Zoom meeting for everybody? Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later in the agenda.
I would agree with you.
We table it. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to table that item as well. Okay, moving on to item number 5.
In looking for a general attorney and getting letters of engagements, I haven't got the complete list of all the letters of engagement, so that one's going to need to go on to next month's.
So a little bit more background. So I think we're considering looking at options for legal counsel for the board, right? For review of the bylaws as well as other general business. Is that the goal? And so we're still evaluating what options and we have, and we still don't have all the ones that we want to evaluate.
Right.
Okay.
And I really like the idea of if the board goes with joining the California Special Districts Association to have them
Make a recommendation.
do the pass on it. I think that's an awesome idea.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Well, and even joining them, we're still going to need our own legal counsel because they can't advise us on some things.
Right.
But I do want to see potential letters of engagement from attorneys that are experienced in this area before the board makes a decision. So I'm all for tabling this one until we get more information.
Okay. Any comments?
the hands are raised.
No hands are raised. Okay, moving on to item number 6.
Okay, so that's
This is the hot one.
CSDA. They're a long-term association, and the California Special Districts Association. It costs roughly $2,600. It might be up to $3,000 because they base it on your budget and revenues. Anyway, they provide a whole lot of different benefits. One of them might be the reviewing of the bylaws, but one of the big ones, at least in my viewpoint, is that they have a whole bunch of policies that are written kind of boilerplate kind of mentality where, oh, you need a policy for something, and then they've got it. And we're talking, there's hundreds of policies that are written where it's like a launch pad for the policy committee to start getting policies for our district and
The required ones.
yeah, required ones, yes. So Do you have more to add, Kathy?
Just a little bit. There's an organization called CSBA, California School Boards Association, to which every district in the state of California and most charter schools belong. And the reason that they belong is that CSBA adds exactly that. They do policy updates. So anytime a policy needs updating, they tell you, and they give you the language to use, and then they tell you where you can make your own language choices. They also give you governance strategies. They give you any changes in the law regarding how you operate or how you govern. And then they give you examples for salary schedules, job descriptions, you name it. And so I look at the California Special Districts Association as being the equal to CSBA. The cost, interestingly enough, is pretty similar to CSBA. But the value for what we would get out of it is immeasurable, and it would save us tons in legal fees.
That was my question.
Sure.
Because we have been spending a lot of money on attorneys for different things. We can look at a way that would reduce the district cost on that.
Right.
Well,
So
I
any
talked
updates to the website would be taken care of here too.
I talked to Eric at this place, California Special District Association, and I felt like it was a sales pitch. And I'm not disagreeing that there's probably quite a bit of information that we could benefit from. But we have a couple of people in the district, if you will, and Diane, who are very good at ferreting out information and et cetera, et cetera. And these guys, from what I understand, from what Eric told me, they don't have attorneys and they're not going to back us legally. They're just advisory.
Oh,
And I'm not saying that it might not be worth it, but the fact is, number one, we didn't budget for it. And in the past, we've looked at things like this that were kind of a nice to have item, but we didn't budget for it, we waited. And that, my feeling is that they're not a government agency, they're a business, and their business is to make money. And they make money by advising districts, et cetera, and collecting money. So they might be worth a try, I don't know, but we didn't budget for it, and I don't think if we shouldn't start that trend of spending money we haven't budgeted for. My 2 cents worth.
I need some clarification on something, and I wish I had printed it out when I saw it, when I was looking at their website, and had to do with they're providing some feedback on legal questions. And I thought it said 1 free hour.
They do. They do have that, and we can purchase their legal opinions, but they also have a list of representation for us as well. The reason that they can't give us legal advice is because we are not specific clients of their legal team. They are the clients of their legal team. So they do have a legal team that they work with, but they're not our legal team. However, they use their legal team to do updates on all of the things that they offer forward.
But in terms of using them as a purely, among other things, legal resource for us, that's limited.
It is limited, but the one thing that they can give us is their advice on what they see from us that isn't legal, and they have templates. So they can say, you know, this language doesn't sound right. Here's language that's been approved.
Okay. And then my other question is for Don, and that is that we belonged to this organization in the past, at some point apparently. And I understand that within the last, let's say, 3 or 4 years, we were approached by them. You know, we noticed you were a member in the past, you know, come back to us. And the feedback that Chuck got at that point was, it's really not a great value for us. So I'm curious about how that's changed, or maybe Chuck's not remembering it correctly. But again, it feels like a lot of money to me when we are being careful about money when we haven't budgeted for it. So I just want to make sure that there's enough value for us. And I was unclear about that.
Yeah, that's actually a great question, actually. I see the greatest value is in their policies that are kind of template written, because we're going towards having a lot of policies. In the past, things have been done the way it's always been done, and now we're getting away from that and having it policy driven, which is a lot of time and let's just use the bylaws as an example. The bylaws, when they were written, they were just written by the board and myself, and that look good? Yeah, that looks good. Let's do it. And if we had had a template, that could have been a lot more efficient.
So not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
With so many things.
Yeah, and so to me, I look at it as a 1 year. Let's just try it, and we've got some board members that are, eager to get some policies off the ground, and it's either that or we might have to have some policies, run by the attorney, make sure that we're not violating a law in establishing a policy. I don't know. Does that answer?
So my first thought is I don't want to spend the money. I'm apprehensive about that. I'm actually very concerned about our budget coming with all the projects and the state of things. So I'd like to be very cautious about where we put our money and how we use it. Having said that, and there's all kinds of these organizations for every single thing out there, for real estate agents, for insurance agents, all kinds. So they're out there and they are out to make money, but they do have to offer some value if they're going to make money, right? I think with all the activity that we have going on right now, and kind of reinventing kind of how the board runs and the things that we do and things like that, it may not be a bad initial investment. We don't have to renew next year.
That's true.
So what I guess what I'm saying is I don't mind that we join this time. I want to see that we can say that we have a lot of that we took advantage of it, and this is everything that we were able to build off of them. But if we go in there and then we find that we're still having to go to the legal counsel and that their templates are incomplete, or only get us 50% of the way there, then I definitely don't think we should keep this as an ongoing thing. I think that right now it might be a worthwhile investment. We do have the money for it. Yeah, we didn't budget for it, but I think I'm for it, apprehensively, just because I don't want to spend the money. But I think right now where we're at with the board and all the interest and all the work that's going on by all the committees, it might be a good tool for us.
Dawn, can you find out whether the membership runs from July 1 to June 30, or whether it runs from January 1 to December 31st? Because if it runs from January 1 to December 31st, then we should be able to just join for 6 months and make a decision at that point. And I do believe, as much as I love doing policy work and bylaw work and a few of the others, I do believe that that will save us a lot of money in legal fees for review if we can use their templates, among other things.
Actually, if we could get a prorated rate for 6 months to actually get a taste, I'd be all for it. It would be dumb not to do it from my point of view. and then we'd get a feel for what it's actually contributing. And
Yeah.
again, we probably just need to be very critical about evaluating that every year before we renew, because maybe right now we have a lot of need, but we'll be stable for a couple of years. I mean, we reconsider it after 4 years or whatever and bring it back to the table then.
I would say review it annually. This is one of those purchases that you're going to review and decide on annually. This isn't a long, something you buy for 3 years or 4 years out.
I can certainly find that question.
Yeah.
That's just a phone call.
Any other comments from the public?
Oh, I need to switch. Just say
You see a hand?
no.
Oh. So do we,
This is an action item.
so do we want to gather more information before we commit, or do we want to, just go ahead? I mean, we still have to answer those questions, but do we want to go ahead on
So start
becoming a member
contingent.
regardless?
6 months. Do 6 months if we can just do 6 months or prorated
Well,
year.
but that's great, but I don't know that that's necessarily, I mean, would we want to join at the full price?
Right.
Regardless, if you can get a better deal, great and awesome, but, or
Well,
do
And our price is determined on our revenues, so it's not determined on our budget, because a lot of our budget entails the carryover funds that we have for the projects. So I think that the revenues that come in are the revenues that we get from the state and the taxes and a few of those other things. So it could even be less than what's projected.
The other thing is that they're basing it on your expenditures. Right now, our expenditures.
I don't think
It's usually on revenue.
No, it's just revenues, and revenues are defined as that new money that comes in to support your budget, nothing that you carry over.
So I don't know, I guess we need a motion. The first thing I did, do we want to support this straight up with whatever cost it has up to $3,000, I think, or do we want to wait to get more information?
I'm a little concerned about waiting because we've got two things riding on this right now from the other items that were on there. One is the bylaws and the other is the compensation.
Does everybody want to take it to a vote now, make a motion, or do we want, anybody have any additional questions? Okay, Kathy, do you want to propose the motion then?
I do. I would like to propose that we enter into an agreement with California Special Districts Association, if possible, for a 6 month at a maximum of no more than $2,800 for a membership.
A second?
Okay.
So nobody's in support of a second?
No, motion dies.
Well,
Okay.
I'll second it. I think we'll go from there.
Thank you.
So now it's up for a vote.
Have to have a,
I'll
Yeah.
do a roll call vote.
It
Dan?
has to be anything with money.
Dan says no.
yes.
Please make it a loud no, so I'm not speaking for you.
No, I feel like we need more.
More
Like,
information.
I would like to have more information on this before we commit. So
Yes, I'll vote yes.
Okay, Connie votes yes.
No.
Lynn votes no. Rolando votes.
I vote yes with the $2,800 cap.
Yeah, and Kathy.
Yes.
Okay. So it passes.
It passes.
2,800 cap, or if there's a 6 month.
Right.
Yeah. 6 month first or $2,800 cap.
And also, if we do enter an agreement, we can have further discussion, but I really want to track the value somehow. So yeah, we use this template, so we can do that for the, and I think it's possible with the committees, because the committees are going to want to review all the data we get from.
Yeah, the committees are going to be using it, but I think that there should be a monthly report from Don on how much we used it.
one thing I don't want to do is pay full price for 6 months.
Oh, no, yeah. Yeah. it's either prorated or for a partial month, or it's gonna be a year from whenever we,
Yeah.
Yeah, because
A year might be when
I'm
we're
definitely not in favor of,
yeah,
well, this is our price and it's only good till
right, no.
December, or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
that just, to me, doesn't make sense, fiscal sense.
They have a standard price. It's a percentage of your revenues per year.
And it could very well be that the start date is when you sign up.
Right, for 1
Yeah.
year from then, yeah.
You know, it's like a magazine
Right,
subscription, you
right.
know.
Okay, so that's the end of action item number 6. Action item number 7, did we already discuss it?
It was
Oh, this is the
discussed.
vote, sorry, yeah. So if everybody recall from our conversation earlier, from what I
Oh,
understood.
just saying, there's a hand up.
Oh.
There's a hand up before we get. Diane, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to add also that the California Special Districts Association offers training, and I'm not quite sure if Eric mentioned whether or not some of that was included in that annual fee that there was, you know, or if that's an additional fee. So, but going forward for you, Don, it's a resource. It's not just a board's, you know, or community resource
Yeah.
to actually take part in those trainings, especially after the election also. So thank you, I yield.
Don, didn't you and I go to a training one time that was offered in Nevada
By
City?
No, yeah, it was a training. It was a training on, actually it was, what was it on?
I don't know.
They
If I
do
recall-
offer training.
Yeah, if I recall, like, I don't know that they gave us a bunch of information, but but that's all really that we got out of it, like a CD and a lot of paperwork. So it wasn't, I didn't
Yeah.
find it to be that training full, but it did have a lot of information.
It wasn't CSDA, I know.
It wasn't,
that.
okay.
It was on like LAFCO.
Yeah,
and-
LAFCO. There, you're
yeah.
right. It was LAFCO. Yep. Okay. So, moving on, right, Diane, you're good?
I'm good, thank you, I yield.
Board compensation, I think that the action item, and I think I'll need someone to make a motion, but if I understand correctly, it was to suspend the payment of the compensation for the board meetings until we resolve the bylaws. And then we would be retroactively compensated based on whatever we determine the payments going forward.
I like the term defer rather than suspend.
Okay.
different connotation there.
Sure.
So, but yes.
Okay.
I could not support suspend. I might support.
Well, we don't have.
defer. And although I have to say that with many things, and it's just the way of public process, things drag on for a very long time. I want to be clear because of a comment that was made about a former board member, and they're just coming to meetings to collect their, at that point, $300. But this has nothing to do with compensation for me. I just feel like doing this is a knee-jerk reaction to criticisms about how board compensation has been handled over the past, let's say, 6 months or so. I think that all decisions going back to when board members were compensated by way of a waiver of their service fee were made in good faith. I don't think there was ever any interest on anyone's part to take advantage or be paid more than was fair. It's very unclear as to whether or not we're operating, well, unclear to some, under water code or special district code. And I think at this point to have gone from $300 to $250 because of what I believe was an error in putting a number into our bylaws. And now because of criticism from the community to say, well, okay, we're going to, we were wrong. We're going to hold off until we get legal opinion, seems even more like we don't know what we're doing. And I feel strongly that we need to just keep doing what we're doing, stay the course. We already have a process for getting a legal opinion. And then at that time, I suggest we make a change that is both legal and works for everyone. But I'm not comfortable with how this came about. And that's how I feel about that.
I agree with Bonnie. Number one, the current bylaws are still in effect. And in order to be legal, you gotta pay what the bylaws that ask for. Okay, number one. Number two, it's ludicrous to think that a board member with 5 of us and a president managing $4 million worth of funds and $1 million a year in expenditures, it's ludicrous to think that that person should be happy taking $100 a month. That $100 a month was good in 2003, and it's certainly out of date for 2020. So leave it the way it is, Bonnie said, until we sort it out, and when we sort it out, then we'll address it. Oops. I don't know why we lost her again, Don. What do you do on this to make it come back up there?
Oh, no, all I did was reduce the volume so there wouldn't be any backfeed or reverb, echo.
Which one did you push?
I did.
So is anybody have any additional comment? Okay.
Yeah, Greg here, I do.
Okay.
I just wondering how much time, your time and legal time and everything is being sort of, in my view, wasted on dealing with this sort of negligible difference in compensation. It just seems like it's a big time sink that's not productive. Just my naive opinion about this. And it's not your fault, it seems. It's like people are raising this issue and it just eats up a lot of time that could be used for more productive purposes.
Well, I definitely,
In my humble opinion.
yeah, I definitely, well, my opinion, I definitely kind of agree with you. This is consuming a lot of energy and time, and if you a return on investment, I don't think is there. But I do feel that we know that there was a mistake made. We have to fix it somehow. Yeah. So I don't know if it's necessarily to defer our compensation. Personally, it doesn't matter to me. If we defer it or not, but it is consuming a lot of energy and time. I don't think there was any ill intent ever by anybody, and quite frankly, at least I know for me personally, the amount of time that I've spent working on the board over the last year and a half now, this is not a compensation. It's not, it wasn't then, and anyways, so it's not like a moneymaker for me. But anyways, do we have a motion on?
Diane.
Oh, go ahead, Diane.
Well, can I add something first, because it's not open to community comments yet. So just from a board member perspective and a relatively new board member, I think that we just need to be mindful of the bylaws that we have, as Lynn suggests, which state $250. Yes, there was an error of $300 for a couple of months, but that error was corrected. And I do agree, we've spent an inordinate amount of time, not just in the discussions with the entire board, but also in the committee discussions as well. And it is something that we may or may not need to rectify. So what we do need to do is to move forward with the understanding that there might be something that we need to correct, and we might want to think about doing it differently in the future based on law. But it's quite possible that we're well within the $250 a month, because it's not per meeting, it's per month. And the other districts pay a per meeting basis, not a per month basis. So all of those things considered, it matters not to me one way or the other what we do, as long as we move this question forward to legal, who can advise us, or to the the association who can advise us.
Is there any more comment from the board? Go ahead, Dan.
I feel like what Greg said makes a lot of sense. I feel like we've spent a lot of time focusing on this issue. Like Lynn said, we have the policy in place already. Okay, until it's determined that we're not doing something correctly, I think we should stay the course, and once if we find out that we were not doing something correctly, then we can go back and change it.
Okay. Any more comment from the board? Okay. We'll open up the public comment. Diane, you have your hand raised.
All right. Seeing that I'm at the center of this and the board is trying to somewhat whitewash this deal, and Greg, I beg your pardon, but you haven't spent the hours of research that I did, that the board is by and large and fully unlawful in this area. And there is potential for reparations to be made with penalty. And yeah, I am not a standalone. I have community to back me up. And if we have to lawyer up to bring you into compliance, that is what will happen. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not going to be maligned and or have my story twisted, but I'm saying the 5%, that all had to be by ordinance and by approval of the community. Nothing since $100 per meeting up to 600 has been approved by the community. So you are in unlawful territory, and it isn't just water codes. It is in special districts as well. I stand on that firmly, and if I have to press you guys on it legally, I will. I yield.
Any other comments from the public? Okay.
I'll just say again, it's kind of a rat hole in my view, and I'm a member of the community with equal standing as other people raising this issue. So, and there are probably others that wouldn't take as big of an issue with it either. So just want to point that out.
That's duly noted, Greg, but either you're lawful or you're not lawful. And that's the point. I'm trying to bring the board into compliance within the laws
And
that are
so
put forth. Thank you. I yield.
I make a motion that we send this question forward to legal counsel and have them resolve it.
I second that.
So is that the,
Scott Brown?
yeah, so wait.
Send it to Scott Brown?
We could send it to current legal counsel, or we could send it to, the downside is we don't have, yes, that probably would be Scott Brown, but we don't have an identified legal counsel for items such as this. We can also, this will be Don, if this will be the first thing that you take up with the association. But I know that Lynn talked with the legal counsel from the Bay Area who could not advise you, Lynn, which is why he chose not to, because we weren't engaged with him, so he couldn't give you any real advice. But we need to enter into an agreement with a counsel that can give us the advice that we need to move forward. And I'm going to make a motion that we do so ASAP.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Can we get a roll call vote for?
We can just go,
Okay.
it's not too hard. Dan, what do you say?
I'm in favor where, if something needs to be corrected and we're told that it needs to be corrected. So if this association that we just agreed to sign up for has some direction on this, and that might help us.
Yeah.
You know, I am concerned about the cost that we're spending and the amount of time we're spending on this, so that we can be used, that could be better used for other resources that we found. So.
Okay, so is that a yes?
Okay. So Dan said yes. Bonnie?
Yes.
Yes. Lynn?
On her motion,
Yes.
no. I'm concerned that we're sending a request to our attorney to make a judgment on an issue that's already been decided by attorneys, other attorneys, and until our bylaws change, I think Scott Brown would be crazy to say anything other than we have to live by the bylaws. Because other attorneys have already told us that.
I didn't know. Has this already
Makes
gone
it-
before?
Actually, it makes a good point.
He does.
Since we're right in the middle of the bylaws revision process.
And that's the first question he's gonna ask. Just what do your bylaws say?
That's true.
So I think you're wasting money.
But you know, you bring up a good point. I can see your side.
Kathy, would you consider revising your
Motion.
proposal
My motion? Sure.
to use our free hour with the special district group to review this question with them. And perhaps then we'll have a better sense of where to take this either in current form with our current bylaws, or given the fact that we are so close to a bylaw revision, how to best handle that with the timing of all of that.
And so the
If that makes sense.
and so
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
right.
that does make sense. I move that we use some of our free time.
But it's,
You didn't know it, I'm sorry.
yeah, first of all, like, so we're not making the motion, the first motion then? Is that true?
Well,
What do we have to do? Because right now we have 2 for it. So he's a no.
I withdraw my,
Okay,
Yeah, I withdraw mine if that's what
Okay.
we're looking for.
okay.
So my question is this. Are we not in violation of the bylaws if we do anything other than pay what the bylaws say?
Oh, yeah, we need to stay within the bylaws, but Lynn, I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is that before we adopt our final bylaws, we get legal to weigh in on what we're doing with this particular item.
But in the interim, we're obligated to follow the bylaws.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so we follow the bylaws until we get counsel from Scott Brown or whoever to do something differently.
To tell us, to advise us what we need to do.
Follow the bylaws. And I would be in favor of that.
I tend to agree with
so
that.
I was proposing that Kathy amend her,
Motion.
been getting tired here, to use that first free hour with special district organization to kind of run the scenario by them and get some feedback as to kind of the timing of this.
Well, along with the bylaws, let's throw the bylaws in there too, since we're getting an hour free.
Mhm.
I'm feeling like we need to put this matter to rest. And if we go to this group, they're not really attorneys, right?
No.
So they're gonna maybe advise us on how we should talk to an attorney about it,
Okay.
right? So,
Scott Brown,
They have their in-house legal counsel, of which we get an hour free.
okay, and so they will,
attorney.
okay, so the real attorney and they are set up, okay.
Yep.
Except I kind of see it's going to take more than an hour.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
thought too.
Okay,
Um,
well, let me amend I don't even remember what my motion was. Do you have my motion, Don? Can you read it to me?
Okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't write it verbatim because I don't write that fast, but it is basically to send it to legal counsel ASAP and to
Right, yeah. Basically, your original motion,
I'm going to amend my original motion to say I would like to have this covered when we send our bylaws to legal counsel. And have legal counsel guide us on what to do about board compensation within the bylaws,
Which bylaws? The current ones or what we're working on?
the new ones.
I agree with
We're
that.
not, we're changing the current ones in a month. So it'll be whatever we change so that we are doing what we're supposed to do. So we will be writing whatever may be incorrect if it's incorrect, but we will at least get a reading on that and then get some direction from legal counsel for the wording in the bylaws.
I have a board member to this.
But in the interim, we have to abide by the
Can I
bylaws
get a
that are in
board member
force.
to be on the phone with CSD or with the attorney?
well,
I feel like I'm the mailman.
right, no, I agree. I think we need 2 board members on the call to discuss this. So, yeah,
Well, Lynn is on that committee and I am on that committee, so perhaps the two of us.
okay.
So me and Kathy.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
Okay,
To
I'm,
include board compensation with the bylaw, the new bylaw review.
Kathy's motion is having the going with the free hour from CSDA, but also having the attorney be able to go over the new set of bylaws and having it all done in one swoop.
Right, board compensation, and then he can direct us on what we need to do.
okay, I'm okay with that.
I shouldn't have been so.
Current bylaw we are at, so we're not violating any statutes.
Did we have a first and a second on that?
Want to second that, Dan? For motion.
Did you want to second her motion?
Certainly, I mean, that's, to me, that makes sense. But I like Lynn said, I want to make sure that we're following the bylaws that we have now, so we're not violating anything. And I think with the new bylaws, that we're gonna create or whatever we're gonna come up with, then we will have direction from there.
So,
So there's a second now.
so Kathy's the first, Dan's the second,
Okay.
and so
All in
Bonnie,
favor, I vote yes.
okay. Bonnie, Lynn,
Are we still on Kathy's or
her amended one where,
what's the latest?
I'm sorry.
okay, just to recap,
Okay.
the is to use the hour from CSDA and however way they propose that we go about it with the attorney,
And perhaps a new attorney.
with the new attorney, and to do the new bylaws and the board compensation all in one swoop, and they would advise us what to do.
I agree with that. But like Dan said, in the interim, we're still tied to the existing bylaws.
Correct.
Yeah, there's no change to the bylaws, current bylaws. We can't change it this quickly anyway.
So that's a
Yes, I
yes.
know.
Yeah,
Okay,
And a yes.
and then Kathy, you're yes,
Yes.
okay, and Dan is yes. Okay, so it's all right.
All right.
Now, as far as deferring the board compensation, right now, I'm going to say that you're all saying, just follow the bylaws, and the bylaws say $250.
We voted that down, yeah.
Okay.
that
Just,
one.
I just want to make sure
There's
I'm
not a
doing it right.
motion to
Yeah,
address
it
that.
just didn't-
Right.
So the report on this one, no action was taken on that specific deferment because a new motion was put in place.
Okay, I think we're done with number 7 and moving on to action item number 8.
Well, I have one thing to say about the newsletter. Bonnie, I like your newsletters.
I do too.
Thank you.
I think they've been an asset ever since they came out.
Well, thank you.
I think it should continue.
Okay.
However, the one thing we need to straighten out is that the bylaws that exist now say that a board member can't be an employee.
Oh, she did it for free.
I did
So
this.
did that get straightened out?
I just did this gratis.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah.
figured you probably did.
I did.
But that's understood then, and we're good for now.
Correct. Yes.
But I'm not saying it has to stay that way. There's no reason why, when we get the new ordinances in place,
Actually,
there couldn't be any.
that would be classified as a conflict of interest, so we need to be really mindful of that.
Yeah. No. I did this gratis, and I'm happy to do it, and I enjoy doing it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think it's very well written, and I think you spend a lot of time choosing the right words and the way to say it. To get
Thank
all that
you.
information in there in that little short piece of paper.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish there was a way to get more people to read what they get in the mail.
Well, that's why I was so excited that that woman submitted the sign proposal. I thought somebody read the newsletter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No.
so,
That takes care of number 8.
no, it doesn't take care of it. We need a motion to approve
What?
the newsletter.
Oh, of course. I move that we approve the newsletter. Anybody want to second it?
Oh, heck, I will.
Okay.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Kathy, was that an aye?
That was an aye. Yeah, I'm fading back here, guys. I
Okay,
need to go to medicine.
well, good. We got done through the action items. So moving on to the information section of the agenda. The number 1, the summer road projects.
All right. I guess I'll handle this one.
Yeah.
The Lynn Cook and I met, and we went over the 2 bids, and they were vastly different in their scope. And we realized that one of them, the lowest bid, was missing the square footage to cover the chip and seal on Wanda Court. And anyway, so the decision, we just decided that we just needed to reject both bids, and if there's a different road project that comes up later, then we'll have money for that. But as far as the present road project, it just got.
So we're going to defer this summer's road project till next summer, and we're probably going to review the scope of the project in greater detail and hopefully cover actually more area to get economies of scale in the bidding. That's what I think ultimately what.
Great idea.
So I recommend that we keep this topic, doesn't have to be next month, we'll keep this topic where maybe in the fall, we need to bring it up again and start to, like Rolando says, start to identify future needs and to refine our policy on doing road projects. But I just don't think we're really in a position right now to tackle that.
Well, especially what we got going on up the road right now, I think that's got your, you know,
Yeah.
you got your hands
The
both out.
decision was made to throw them both out. Rolando and I talked about it extensively. As much to protect us as anything, because that's the only really legal thing that we could do that we were in no fault. so that's what happened.
Okay.
Side note on that, I talked to Jerry about it, and there's absolutely no hard feelings. He's very cool about it, so I think we're good.
I would like to take the opportunity to bring up to the board that I think we need a road committee, and I think we need to develop a strategy for how we determine what the road project should be. In my mind, and I don't know nothing about work, and I'm sure I'm oversimplifying the road work, but I'm oversimplifying that. I feel like we should have a section of the roads that gets done 1 year, a second section that gets done the second year, so that we basically are circling and doing every section once every 5 years or whatever makes sense. And that should be our plan, if that makes sense. I don't know how often they need to be done, and I'm sure there are cases where it doesn't make sense and maybe we need to consider, but have some sort of baseline plan that we evaluate and then make changes to that plan for that year as opposed to starting from scratch. But I think it would require input from the board and maybe even any community members that have input. So we got a lot on our plate, I agree, but we should consider that.
I think that's a great idea. I love that idea.
I think that's a good idea.
And if there was a plan like that, then we could get a multi-year road contract.
Which would save us money.
I like to think so.
And we would all be clear about what's being done, and we would be able to articulate that to the community members, and it would be more transparent, I think, as well.
But Lynn has brought up in the past, we also need to have on that, within that scope, the high use areas that need more attention. We need to, you may have an area that doesn't get used that much and it's slated for repair this year, but if you have a high use area that needs more attention, then maybe we need to have the ability to redirect funds when we need to.
Well, there has to be some flexibility on what gets worked on.
Yeah.
But in the past, years ago, we had 10 miles of roads before the county took over Ellen. And we tried to do 20% every year, which was 2 miles or 1.5 miles. And that way it worked out every 5 years, everything got chipped and cleaned up and whatever. Okay. What happens is you get one road that really needs, like Dan said, a high use area that really needs the attention, and it might need it every 3 years. And so you have to kind of modify what happens. Fortunately, our roads are in pretty good shape. So we've been able to take some of that money. We did signs this year. We spent $5,000 or so on trees, which we didn't use in the earlier years. We didn't spend money on trees. And we need to probably spend in the future more money on ditches.
And culverts.
And total.
That's right.
So there's got to be a little bit of flexibility built into it, and I'm sure there will be. I don't think that'll be an issue. We just
Okay. I just want to make sure that when we set this up, that's what we do, because we have areas that pop up that we need to, like you said, areas that pop up that we need to jump on right now for safety reasons.
For instance, one of the things that I'd like to see, before I came on the board, Mary Lane and Ponderex and around the circle, Westridge Avenue and Morningside were school bus routes, and Thomas and Otto. And so they had a 2-inch asphalt overlay put over them. And then since they've been chipped and sealed, those roads have held up really well. But what I would really like to see is be able to go on to Mary and add a 2 or 3 foot width extension on the pavement. Mary's a really busy area, and I'd like to see the money spent to widen Mary a little bit. So there's a lot of potential areas where we can improve considerably, not only the safety, but the comfort of our roads. But every year's different. You know, every year's different. You never know what's going to happen. for instance, what happened on, is it Nancy? Where the culvert
The
caved in.
culvert came out, yeah.
Yeah, we had a 10-foot wide by 6-foot
Yeah, but we
hole
have,
in the road.
we're gonna have maintenance and then we're gonna have
Yeah.
repair,
We're
right?
gonna have that,
So-
sometimes
We're gonna
that's
have oopses.
Okay, so,
there's $20,000 right there.
And I just want, on A there it says road funds available, and there's roughly about $60,000 come in to the road funds, but it fluctuates because of property taxes. And then in reserves, there's in excess of $400,000 in reserves in the roads, and one thing that I challenge the board to consider is how much you think is a good amount to keep in reserves, as opposed to doing some of these upgrades on the roads and improving the roads in general.
Yeah.
So that the money that was spent by the property tax, the community through property taxes, is used by the community.
Right.
Property,
I don't have the answer to that. I think that 400,000 is an excessive amount, but I think we need a committee to kind of talk this through. I don't want to take the time right now, but I think let's put that on the list of committees, and let's make sure that that's something maybe the new board, I think, because we're pretty busy, needs to consider and put together. But I think,
But the whole board, or like you say, maybe needs to be more involved in the
right. I think it's a lot to put on just one person too.
Oh, there's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on the summer road projects? Okay. Any public comment on the summer road project? You have any hands up?
no hands are raised.
Okay.
I think
I would like to be on that roads committee. Tiffany, this is Tiffany Vanderlinden.
You hired.
I will add that committee to the form on the website so we can have people sign up.
I
Okay.
didn't realize we had that much.
Thanks for speaking up, Tiffany.
Any other hands up?
Nope.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the second item, the conflict of interest code policy.
So we're required as a district to review the conflict of interest code every couple of years. And anyway, our time is coming up. We'll have the code. I'll have it ready to look at the next board
The
meeting.
one we do online, right?
No, that
No.
That's it.
This is
Oh, that's it. So what we,
The basic component,
what Placer County asks us to review. The county council, Placer County Council, asks us to review every couple of years. One of the things that would be really helpful is to have right now we're under the county, where the county says, okay, your board of directors are the ones who need to have the Form 700 done. And the suggestion is to make it more restrictive. Have me on there, have Jerry on there, have having the people in the game to also file the Form 700.
well,
conflict.
and typically, if I can add to what you're saying, Dawn, is that what you're looking at is changing the number of reporters that are on there, because right now I think only the board is a reporter, but truthfully, Dawn makes purchasing decisions, and any of your subcontractors or your independent contractors also make purchasing decisions, and they should be on there. The new requirements for conflict of interest really have identified those two categories as well. So we need to change that and then update any components of the conflict of interest policy that have been changed by law over the last 2 to 3 years that aren't reflected in our current policy. So we're up to date.
As far as the SEI 700, I think that is that not dictated by state law? Who has to have?
I think so, and that's why it's just the board. But
Because I have to sign my job, and that's because it's under state law. And I think the state law supersedes anything that we would come up with. It would say who has to sign that, who does not have to sign.
well, Kathy, interrupt me if I'm not speaking right. What Kathy's suggesting is that it become more restrictive, that more people are included.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Not just.
And as
not,
part
not
of our
saying,
bylaws, we would make that suggestion to go in there.
Well, it actually is because under Government Code 90, I think, it requires that independent contractors who make purchasing suggestions or do purchasing for nonprofits or for anybody that has to follow the government code also has to be a reporter. So you have to include those people in your list of reporters. So I am suggesting that we be more broad-based in who has to report, so that anyone that has purchasing power or the power to employ or the power to give money has to be a reporter, so that there is no conflict of interest. So that would be any employee like Don that's a general manager should be, because he makes recommendations for purchases.
Okay, I understand where you're going now. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so, and
So-
that's what we really need to update. So we're not trying to pull out, we're actually trying to add to.
yes, we do have a conflict of interest code.
Right.
Do we have the current conflict of interest?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So starters, it ought to be printed, passed out to all the members. And Diane and any other people that are vaguely interested in what we do, and make sure they understand what it's all about. That's the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Don and I are going to do is
Everybody knows this.
and then pull new law into the, plus put new positions in there, so that when the board sees it in August, they can take a look at that and see if that's the new policy they want to adopt. So tell Don if you have ideas of who should be reporters, because that's the main area. The other part will be done by our new association will give us the draft of what the policy should look like.
Okay, so you're gonna bring a new policy for everybody to review.
Yeah.
Ensure that it's okay. So I think we're done with item number 2. Item number 3, the job descriptions.
There are 2 job descriptions, one for the general manager, one for the administrative assistant. And I would like to, just due to time, but just being that it's almost 9:30, to just put this to another month, to just to the next month. But we can.
We're not being asked to take any action today, right?
No, this is just the first read of it. So what we really need for you to do is to review the 2 job descriptions and give feedback to Don on things that you'd like to see changed or edited or anything like that, questions that you may have. So that when it comes back before the board for vote, then you will have more information. You've had a whole month to take a look at it.
Yeah. So I think this is just an action item for the individuals to review the job descriptions, along with, and I'm going to remind everybody of, we need, for those of us that weren't on the committee for the bylaws, that we need to review those as well. So
Absolutely.
be
Yeah.
prepared, and be prepared for the next meeting to provide our feedback. And if you have feedback, you should give it to Don early.
Yeah, this is typical of when you do policies or when you do job descriptions, unless it's an emergency. Typically, it's a 2-month process. First month is read only, second month is approved.
Okay, so I think we're done with item number 3. Item number 4, this is the August agenda items. So We got the job descriptions that we just talked about. We're gonna have the board bylaws. We're anticipating we're gonna be ready for review by then.
We'll see what the
We hope.
attorney.
Yeah, so there's a committee meeting the 25th or the 24th. We need to have our revisions in by the 23rd, and that they'll take it to the attorney. You'll have a policy for the conflict of interest. What's this letter D?
Those are some policies that we're going to try to get off the ground.
Okay.
Fiscal purchasing and bidding policy.
Okay.
Just
So this
sort of
might be
instead of
here.
the way we always do it,
Yeah.
there'll be a policy on the right way to do it.
And that'll be just a first read on it, no action.
And then I'm hoping that by August, we can also resolve the post or what was it called?
The outdoor bulletin board.
Yeah, the temporary bulletin board folder. So we can follow up on that.
Okay.
Any other items for the August agenda? Any hands up?
Just a question, have we decided whether we in fact do want to meet in person or
Oh, good
use
question.
Zoom for August?
I recommend that we meet individually. I think we can't take advantage of Lynn's kindness anymore, his generosity. So I think we should meet via Zoom for all of us.
I would appreciate if
You and I met, yeah.
if the board president and I were to meet together.
Yeah,
As in at the meeting, because then we can be giving each other paperwork.
Right.
Whatever.
And if there are any hiccups, we can address them and hopefully resolve them by September.
one hiccup is how do we sign this document?
I'll have to just take it around to a couple of board members.
Okay.
And, you know, how it used to be done.
Can I just add, Kathy, they can do DigiSign too, right?
Yeah, but yeah, there should be, I don't think there are that many documents that need signing that we would need to do that, but absolutely.
But the checks need
Wet
some-
signatures.
Yeah, but the checks are pretty easy, right? It's just I'll
Yeah.
sign one and then
Right.
get it to someone else and they're done. But this one, everybody has to sign
that was me the DigiSign thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So if nobody has any objections, I think we should just meet via Zoom for everybody. I don't think we need a motion for that.
I'm willing to try it if I can't. It's not that I'm using Zoom right now and through my computer, and my hearing is not such that I can always hear and understand everything that's coming out of that little tiny microphone. And so I'm willing to try it.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna
Drive to my house.
Yeah, I'll come to
Okay.
Don's house.
Yeah, I think, Don, you can meet with the group.
Perhaps Dan can invest in a pair of really good headphones, because that's what my son uses for gaming.
No, you can't, Diane, you can't use headphones with hearing aids.
You basically need to watch people talk, I'm assuming.
That's exactly right.
Right. That actually may be even easier for you if people are framed correctly, I hope.
Right.
I just, if I might, we had talked about the fact that our CPA is acting as our treasurer, but we don't have a cooperative agreement with her stating that she is the treasurer or she accepts that position as a dual position rather than as a contractor. So I just wanted to remind Dawn and Kathy that came up. I yield.
That's right. I forgot about that, but yeah.
Okay, so is that something we want to put on the agenda for August then and maybe have a conversation with her before then?
Uh-huh.
That would be the goal.
Yeah. You got that down? Yeah. You done?
As first I heard about it. But
Oh,
the could you just repeat it so I can write it down correctly?
so I think Diane's
Whether
pointing out.
she's treasurer or a subcontractor.
She has a title of treasurer, which is an office of the board. So she's literally an officer of the board. But she actually is an independent contractor for the district as well, back office.
Yeah. So in solving that, we could have a board member be the treasurer, right?
Right, or she could actually just be affirmed to do that as well if that's what she chooses.
She needs to acknowledge that she's willing to take that role.
Okay. I'll need to.
Yeah.
The first thing she's going to ask is, so how does that role? How is it different than what she's doing? You know.
I don't think it's probably not any different. We just need to document it.
It's just documentation.
And that she's comfortable with that, yeah.
She'd be recorded with the Secretary of State, just like every other officer.
And she would be required to fill out a Form 700.
Okay.
So if she not likey that idea, then we have to do something else.
Okay, any future agenda items? We added the committee, right, for the roads. We might have policy updates, town hall meeting. Oh, the town hall meeting.
Kathy, you want to speak to that?
Oh, that was for a potential idea to have one or more town hall meetings just as a form of communication and transparency to the community. Nothing major, just, you know, kind of an update on who the board is, what they're doing, what our goals are, what we've accomplished to date, and what our agenda is for the next few months. So.
Well, I think that the initial one should be the open house that we talked about and open to the site.
Okay.
So we need to, and I'll talk to Jerry about when that might make sense. I still, just in looking at the site, I think I'd like to see it a little bit more developed, you know, so people get a better feel.
Yeah.
But
I don't think we're going to get to do anything until they lift the COVID restrictions.
yeah, true.
Well, that's what I should really get.
Yeah, but the idea is that we have an annual town hall meeting, so to keep our community appraised of who we are and what we do, and really maybe get more input or at least public participation from some of our community members.
Outreach for tapping into skill sets that for volunteers was one of the goals. And actually that can be hopefully hosted via Zoom or telephone if hopefully in the newsletter it's well publicized that is, you know, that doesn't just have to be computer based, it could be on the telephone. If we're going to be in COVID hell for however the foreseeable future is.
Okay, I don't know if anybody, I'll give that some thought because I had committed to doing the project one, but that's a good point that we're not gonna get allowed to do that with COVID. So I'll put some thought into the town hall meeting.
And it was just to put something in your mind, that was it.
Right, yeah. Okay. And I think that's it for the future agenda items. So we'll review the minutes from our June meeting. And does anybody have any corrections or changes?
I did not.
Okay.
None
Then,
for me.
okay. Then I think I need a motion to approve the consent items that include the minutes as well as the expenditures, which is the spreadsheet that accompanies our packet.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar or consent agenda, which includes approval of the June 9th regular minutes, and monthly expenditures for the month of July.
Okay, I second that motion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Okay.
Bonnie, there's a light right above your head.
So just a note on
Yeah,
I
that.
forgot about it.
Just a note on that, just so that everybody understands. There's a large payment that will go out to Paso Robles pending approval by USDA. If they don't approve it, or they lower it, or do whatever, then I could be avoiding that particular check, but it won't get sent to them until USDA gives their blessing on it.
Right.
So yeah, just want to make sure everybody knows.
And that 5% retention that Jerry talked about is on every payment or just on the first payment?
On different sections.
On different sections.
Yeah. And so then once in that section, once they cross over the 50% mark, then they get the 5% back. There's something. I say 50%. There's a percentage of completion.
Okay.
Okay, so last item on the agenda, comments from the audience on items not on the agenda. Anybody raising their hand?
Oh yeah, Diane.
Okay, Diane.
I actually texted it in, but I just want to close with stating that I have not had a problem with how much the stipend is. It's how it was acquired and it was not approved. If the community felt that you deserved 300 per meeting, that was not the question. It was to stay within the legal bounds, which have not been met. So I just want to be clear, it wasn't that I think you get paid too much. It's how it was acquired and how it's being acquired and how it's approved. And I just want to leave you with that. I yield.
I appreciate that clarification, Diane. Anybody else? Okay, then meeting adjourned. Thanks everybody for joining us. So this one ran a little longer and I thought the agenda was a little light, but we got this stuff.
Okay.
Everybody have a good night and we'll see you next month on Zoom.
Somewhere.
Good
Yeah.
meeting, Rhonda.
Okay, thanks.